Welcome to the show. I am so super excited to have joining me tonight, Evoni Seigler. She's my friend, and we're here to talk tonight just about life and about motherhood and about being a woman and just have some fun. Thank you so much, Evoni, for joining me today.
I am so excited.
I'm so excited too. We've been waiting to do this for like half a year or something. Like we've been talking about
Yes,
getting together and hanging out and just talking about life and all these great topics that we always have fun just talking me and you on the phone. And we're like,
yes.
let's just record this. And I was like, let's just have some wine and like hang out and chill. But we ended up both having coffee, but I did sneak in some champagne from downstairs. So I'm going to have some champagne so I can fall asleep after this.
Look, even with my coffee, I'm gonna fall asleep. When I was younger,
Mhm.
coffee had the opposite effect. It would keep me up for hours. But
Mhm.
as a mom, girl, I could drink coffee and be knocked out in 5 minutes.
I'm like, we're so drained all the time. I am so tired. I don't even know how I'm awake right now. Right before this, I took like a 15-minute nap and I set my alarm. Like, I was so tired. I've been going since like, I don't know, 5 in the morning with my 2.5-year-old. I don't know how early your boys get up because how many boys do you have?
I've got two girls, but let me tell you my secret.
Okay.
So I'm a new kind of mama, I like to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stuff that my mom did raising me, I don't do that with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
In the morning time, don't expect me to get up. You better make your own breakfast.
You're teaching them to be
Uh,
independent early.
yes, don't mess with me. I need my
That's
space.
good value too.
My kids
Mm-hmm.
be up and they've already eaten breakfast if they are hungry. And then when I get up, especially on the weekend, you know, it's everything's good. I don't have to, do anything and nothing's required of me. And
Mm-hmm.
I just listen to other parents and I'm like, girl, you better tell little Johnny over there, better grab that chair, put that chair inside the pantry, grab that the cereal box. Better get creative. Back in the day, we used to
That's what we
climb.
used to do. Back in the 90s, listen, the TV would never stopped. It was on 24 hours. And that was considered very good parenting. It was like we had 4 TVs in the house and we had a tiny 2-bedroom apartment, 4 TVs. Okay. There was like TV in front of your face every second. There was no like nutrition and organic or anything like that. We would eat like Italian ices, like you scrape the sugar off the bottom. Like this was like daily. Like this was the 90s. Like and now everybody can't have it both ways. Like everybody's like, bitching about millennials and like, oh my God, these kids these days are so spoiled. And then like, we also want to like coddle this generation and like be like, you have to eat this and everything has to be right. And we have to have a schedule on the wall for our at-home daycare time because it's the pandemic. And like in reality, we should be making our kids more independent. We got to have a balance. We can't like complain one way and then do everything the opposite, right?
Yeah, growing up, so I was adopted.
Oh, were you?
And yes, I think like when I was 4 or something. So I grew up. The mom who adopted me, which is my mom, she's 100% my mama. She was like old enough to be my grandmother. So I was raised under those times, and I talk a lot about that in my life because you guys know me as Evoni, but I also call myself the wig coach.
Mm-hmm.
And with my platform, I just try to have like the real deal, honest, hard conversations in which we don't typically have on the day to day,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like we have like that fluff everywhere, like the fluff
Mm-hmm.
conversations. So growing up by an older woman, older people standards and such, I grew up under girls don't do this,
Mm-hmm.
boys do that. We didn't talk about sex. You speak when spoken to, who told you to think type of
Mm.
stuff. Like,
Mhm,
you don't think for yourself, and children should be seen, not heard.
mhm,
And I talk about a lot of the issues and why I choose to parent the way that I parent, in which it rattles people's feathers. For one, I allow my children to curse.
mhm.
Now, everybody does not agree with that, and I completely understand. But I think that the vocabulary in which our children tend to use is very important in finding out
Mhm,
more about our kids. One of the things I know growing up is I talked one way away from my parents,
mhm,
and then around my parents, I spoke another way. And I don't feel as if they was really able to capture who I truly was, which meant I relied on the outside world more than I did my parents because I was faking it.
There was a wall there that didn't need to be between you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, over words. My children,
Interesting.
they're 5 and they're 7, but already, like when they go to friends' houses, I have this really close gay couple that I'm like really close with here, and my oldest son is friends with their daughter.
Because where do you live?
I live in
over in
Florida.
Boston. You live in Florida. Okay, I knew it was pretty far from me.
Yes, but it's so nice here, and we'll go over there, and my son likes to play the game with her, and he said, "Fuck," and she was like, "You should have been away." And she tells her dad, and me and him are talking, and I said, this is your house, your rules. And he tells my son, he's like, Kenneth, if you keep that language up, you're gonna have to leave. I feel as if that taught my son at a young age that when you're around people, their houses, their rules. At that moment, you have a decision to make that if you want to abide by someone's rules, you can stay. And if you don't, simply be like, Mommy, let's go.
In a way, it's like how to respect people's boundaries and also how to conform, That's very interesting. That's a really important lesson.
Yes. And also I get to hear how they speak. They don't say it in like a negative way. They don't say it in a disrespectful tone. They don't do any of that. But also, I know how they sound when they're frustrated. I know how they sound when they're happy. I know how they sound when they're angry. I know all of these things. So I really feel like, can't nobody tell me about my kid? If the school calls me and they say, your son said XYZ, I know how my son talks because, at the age they're now, the kids at school, they know what curse words are. These kids know how to use these curse words. And a lot of these parents don't know, but their kids know how to use these words correctly.
Yeah. So like at the end of the day, it's not only do you know how they speak, it's like your kid. And you're just like, it's almost like creating that open dialogue, which we hear about is so important, but it's like this is taking it to another level because you're giving them permission to just be who they want to be. And you're just kind of guiding them in a little different way.
Yeah, and because I curse. Me and my husband were both ex-military, and my mouth is potty. It is. I don't want to with a lot of things, but I don't want to tell my children, "Oh, I can do it," but you can't. And I definitely don't want my child saying, "Oh my gosh, Mommy, you said a bad word." Look, I've been in this world for 30 years. Ain't no child ruling me.
No, absolutely. I don't think anybody rules you. First of all, like I've known you enough that nobody rules you. You are your own person. And that's why you're so amazing to me. You have so much confidence. And when every time I talk to you, I learn something new about you. And your life story is so amazing. All the things you've gone through. I didn't know you served in the military. That's amazing. And all of these things have sort of built you into the person you are. Can you share with us a little bit about your story and who you are? Because you are amazing and you have so much love that you share on your platform and with your audience and with everyone who interacts with you. You share a lot of confidence and, you really know who you are. Tell us a little bit about that journey to become who you are, Evoni.
Oh, it was a rocky journey. I only became who I am now because I came from a place of self-hate, depression, not acknowledging how important the value of myself was. So what I do now is I teach people how to start and scale a profitable hair business. I provide coaching for that. And on top of that, also, I still provide custom-made wigs for people. And I use my platform as a way to empower people. I went from not having a voice and completely hating myself. So when I was adopted, we didn't have open conversations in my household. And I grew up sneaking into my mom's room, reading my file. And I don't know if they still do this when you get adopted or if you're in the foster care system, but you come with a file and it's a bunch of therapists telling, what notes about who you are. And So I had this file telling me of who I was, and I was just really shocked because heck, I didn't know who I was. And in my household, it wasn't okay to speak it in a sense. My mom didn't like to be challenged, in which I understand how my mother became how she was. I realized that being a mom and not staying true to yourself and not taking care of yourself, it leads to unhappiness. And even if you find there's happy moments in the unhappiness of things. But if you never fix that root issue, you can never blossom. So being challenged, nobody likes to be challenged, especially if they be challenged, there's a chance that they're going to lose, you know. But I learned a lot of things. So I grew up reading a file on myself. There wasn't very much open conversation. My mother, she did love us. And I grew up in Caucasian neighborhoods. So I grew up where I was too Black for the white kids and too white for the Black kids. And in the schools that I went to, there might have been 5 Black girls, maybe. And for some reason, each and every single one of them hated me.
Oh my gosh.
They couldn't stand me. I think I was just way too different. I don't know. I had a very bubbly, I was a lot of personality.
They were intimidated by your beauty. That's why.
I would hope to think that, but I know I was a wild one. Like, I wasn't allowed to hang out with friends after school. I wasn't allowed to do after school sports. My mother adopted, it was 6 of us that she ended up adopting, and they all had like mental things and or physical things wrong with them. So I wasn't allowed to do those things because I was needed at home. I was the oldest of all the adopted kids. Yeah, it was a lot. I don't think my mom even understood the pressures that she would put on herself for that, because she was so successful with her biological children.
So there were 6 adopted and there were biological children in your household?
Yeah, there was two biological and then 6 of us who were adopted. My mom's, she's amazing. You know, it's just kids can really wear you out, you know, and I feel like with every child that you have to give a little piece of yourself. And back in those days, a woman standing true in her own voice and her own way, that was not acceptable.
That was never talked about. This is a recent thing.
Very, very, because for the longest time, I used to blame my mom for a lot of the things until I realized that I have a lot more freedom than what she had. And look, I don't cook.
Me too.
I don't clean.
Me too. Oh, you don't clean either?
No, girl. Let me tell you about this.
I want to talk. We got to get into that too, because
I just hired a cleaning service to come to my house. I can't do it.
Yeah. I got to at one point too. It's taken so much out of me I have my son, he's 2.5 years old. Every day, like, you should see my car right now. I mean, it's like ridiculous. The amount of crackers and food. He spilled my coffee all over the front seat today. And then I had Pringles, and I was running racket like everywhere. And I grabbed them from the convenience store, and he dumped them out all over my front seat. And I'm like, I can't take anymore. Like, it's hard, especially when you're a mom. Like you just like you said, you have to give a piece of you, and it's just like, it's nonstop, you know?
And back in my mom days, women didn't say, girl, it's okay. Leave them babies home with that man and go somewhere. No. They didn't say that back in them days. It was suck it up. Girl, you're a woman. That's what we do. We stay strong. With me, I'm out.
Well, you got to be smart about it. Like, you also work and you run a business, and, you know, you also have to have this energy because you're coaching people and talking to people and amping them up and bringing that positivity. That's draining, you know, that's like a lot of energy. And then you have your kids on top of it, and your husband, and everything going on in your life and your friends. I mean, you can't do everything. And I think also that's a new concept. That's like our generation of like, you can't do everything and take a break, but you're just being smart about it. Like, let's outsource this. Like, you're just being conscious of, you know, how much can you give of yourself so that you don't, you know, wear yourself completely out. And we need to do more of that. you know, and I think even if you do that, you need to keep revisiting that, because sometimes I've done like 50 of these shows and I love them. And we always come back to the same concepts and they're similar to this. But if you don't stay on top of these things, you're still going to like fall into the trap and fall into the trap. And like, I just go in cycles of like wearing myself down and then coming back out of it and doing mindset work and getting into good routines and then wearing myself out. If you don't stay consistent, like you are still going to burn yourself out. It's like, you have to really be like putting yourself first a little bit, which I think is what you're saying, like put yourself first a little bit sometimes, or everyone else is going to suffer around you.
I don't even say sometimes, all the time. I've been an entrepreneur for about 10 years. And I remember early on, especially like when I first had my first son, when I used to say my why was my son, and I failed. I would fail. Like, you know, I would hit that burnout. He would need, and I would fail. Doing hair, I would put myself first, and my why was no longer my children. My why was me. And that was powerful. I realized the power within that, because every time that I put something into myself, instead of me thinking, oh my gosh, put myself first, I'm going to neglect my child, I can pour that energy right back into my children. And all of this stuff is, we got to remember that we do as we see. And I think it's important that my boys especially can see my mom doesn't do it all. So I'm not going to, when they get to dating, they're not going to expect their woman to do it all. You don't have to do it all. And it's okay if you focus on yourself.
We need to teach this generation too a little bit more about dating and about respecting women and about what a relationship is, because I don't even think we're doing that enough. Like, we've done a good job, I feel like in the aspects that we're talking about, you know, focusing on yourself and all that. But don't you feel like that's something that we even need to talk about more, especially with our sons? You know what I mean? I think so.
I think it's with daughters, sons, girl, the whole dating aspect of, don't bust it wide open for nobody who cannot fix your flat tire if you are on the side of the road. It's when you love yourself. And I wish that somebody would have just, if I would have been able to have conversations like this with my mom, you know, if she would have went through this, then she would have been able to teach me a lot better. When you love yourself, and when we are young, I'm going to say this, when we're young, we kind of have this already. It's just that society knocks us down, because every time a relationship fails or a boy doesn't like us, someone tells us that we could have been better in an area, and it kind of chips at our egos. And then we, you know, that standard kind of goes down for the next one, and you give leeway, and then you wake up and you're like, holy crap, how did I get with this piece of shit? I have nothing in common. Yeah, I have nothing in common with this person.
And you're just trying to like prove yourself to them and please them. And I don't think it's just us. It's like every woman listening right now probably identifies with that.
Yes, it's about when we love ourselves, when we put that energy into ourselves, like even for my friends that are just now having babies, and I see them going through a lot of the same things. I would never be like, girl, I would never do that as a mama, because look, I ain't been a newborn mother in over 5 years. So I don't know what I would do.
And I'm not going back into it, I don't think. I was thinking I'm going to have more. And I was like, until recently. And now my son's 2.5. And I'm like, am I really going to go back in and do this all again? Like, I'm done. Like, I think he's going to be it. That's it. I'm all set. This is a lot.
The only way. My babies is too old, though. I doubt it.
How old are yours again?
5 and 7.
5 and 7. Okay.
So that means a 7-year difference. You know, I don't know for me, but if I'd have to get a nanny, I want a live-in nanny. All the fears that women used to say about when your husband gonna sleep with her, well, at least I'm left the hell alone.
Did you see Sex and the City? And then I forget which one of them, the brown hair, and she thinks her husband is sleeping with the nanny, and she says that her first thought was, oh no, I can't replace this nanny. I need this nanny to help me with these kids. She was like, she didn't even care about this guy, because you got to hold it together. Like, seriously, we're thinking about logistics here. Yes.
Look, when you start loving on yourself, I kid you not, your outlook. When I started going through this whole self-love journey, I would have never thought that there was people in my life in which I really thought they were for me. And I'm not saying that you have to be all for me, because we all have friends that bring out different parts of us.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that self-love journey, I realized what kind of friend I was. And when you start to understand yourself so much better, you start seeing how people are treating you and the boundaries they're willing to cross with you. I've loved people so much and was just felt so lucky to be in their presence. The girl, I would never look. I'm watching what you want to be called, am I holding my cup right, And I had people around since high school that I realized I should have let go. And I had to, and it was painful. And a part of me, when I was going through the self-love journey, I had to remind myself not to go back to that dark place, because once I realized how I wasn't taking very good care of myself, it made me sad. Realizing that I was allowing people to manipulate me and to, girl, it was so painful. And I apologize to myself every day. I'm so sorry, Evoni, that I misused you, but today I'm not doing that. I tell myself that every day. And I remind myself of my value. And I take photos. I love taking photo shoots of myself, whether I got a thong on or some jeans.
You look beautiful either way. Your pictures are phenomenal. You should go on like Top Model or something.
Girl, I wish. But I look at myself and I do those photos because I need to remind myself of who I am. Because I think we all need that reminder.
And not letting other people decide your worth, I think, is a big thing. Because I did that for a long time. And I felt similarly when I got out of my marriage, because my worth was tied to what this man thought of me. And at the end of the day, like once I had my son, and it completely changed everything, because I saw that this man was not only mistreating me, he was willing to mistreat my baby. And once that happened, I had no more value for him. And I didn't care how he valued me, but I realized I didn't know how I valued myself, because I had to go on that self-love journey too, which I'm still on. It's been like a couple years now to even find out who I am, and there was a song back when I was like getting ready to leave and make that change that says, I thought I'd miss you, but I missed me more. And I did. I missed who I was. Like you said, I'm sorry, Evoni. Like that's how I felt too. Because when you really are letting yourself be mistreated, like that's how it feels. You completely have not valued yourself. And it's like really hard to describe to somebody who hasn't like felt that. But like when you break free of it, it's life-changing. It's like you're born again.
It really is. I've even had friends who let me go. And I didn't understand why until I went on this self-love journey. I have friends who would tell me things like, I don't like the way you let them person talk to you. You just don't even understand who you are. And I don't want to be around to watch this. And I would be like, bye.
Who are you? Yeah.
Yeah, like then bye. But during this journey, and honestly, once you get on the self-care journey, if you ever get off of it, that's danger zone. It's constantly something that you have to constantly practice every day. Even it ain't easy. It ain't a door you want to open every day, because you don't know what's on the other side. You don't know what emotion is going to come out. But I had to realize that it is painful to sit there and for me to just think about how I let some of these men talk to me, how I let some of these men treat me, how I would let manipulation just happen because either I was lonely or I wanted to spend time with them, or I didn't have nothing better going on with myself. And now I understand what those people said. When you value somebody so much and you love them so much, it's very hard. Some people can't stay. Like, I've got people that I'm close to that now I'm looking like, but I would never. How could you mistreat yourself like that because of this person? They're not even worth it.
You can't see it when you're in it. I would never, thank God for my son. And he's like my angel. And I say that just because I love him so much. But truly, he is like an actual angel that saved me, because I would never have seen my ex-husband for what he was if it wasn't that I saw through my son's eyes. You know, it completely changed my perspective and saved my life to have a child, you know, because value nothing more than your child. Even if you don't value yourself, you value your child. So that's why motherhood changes you. And we talk about mom life. We talk about all these sort of like new age values. It's really important. Like there's nothing else that'll change you that profoundly as like how much you love your kid.
Yes. And then you'll love your kid so much. I know for me, I remember loving my son. I didn't always love him. This is going to sound so crazy, but when I gave birth to my son, I was like, ugh.
That happens all the time. Mm-hmm.
And I just remember like giving him to my husband, like, you wanted him. And then for like, until that milk came in, I was separated from my child. Mm-hmm. But don't let my baby cry. Mm-hmm. When I hear my baby cry, my baby hungry or something. But I remember Candace didn't eat for the first 3 days because my milk hadn't came in, and I just really figured, but he didn't cry either.
You couldn't like bond.
The collagen, I think that's what they call it, that comes out the breast.
Yeah.
They don't need that much
of that. Or some weird word. I couldn't ask. In the hospital, I asked like 20 times and I looked like an idiot. Like I could not remember that word. I still don't know what it is. somebody message it to us.
But
I'm curious, did you have a C-section? Because I had a C-section and I thought that maybe that's why my milk never came in. And I tried breastfeeding for like 3 months and I couldn't do it.
Oh, girl, no, I am terrified
of
a C-section.
I'm terrified of birth.
No, I feel like when it comes to C-sections and doctors and stuff, the way that they make women give birth is not natural. And until things have changed, like nowadays, they're so quick at just getting the baby out that
they're going to make more money too. They're going to make more money for the insurance.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times women don't really need to get cut open. And then for two, why the hell are we laying on our backs?
Yeah, that's true.
Pushing something out, going against gravity. Mm-hmm. And if we stood up and they practiced, they was really for us, they would, the baby could naturally turn downwards, and gravity could help and stuff. But that the milk would not milk, but the that white stuff, whatever that stuff was, he was on that for a little bit, and then the doctor was like, it's enough because they have food from like being inside of you for the first few days and whatever. And I would know like some of my friends, like they would freak out during that time, but me, I was so disconnected in a sense that I was like, no, the doctor said it's gonna be fine. Mm-hmm. He's fine. He's not crying. He's good. And then that milk came in. Mm-hmm. And then I was crying. Mm-hmm. That was horrible. Mm-hmm. And then my body was completely changing on me. And I didn't know what body this was. I went from 125 to 160. I brought my pre-pregnancy clothes to the hospital. I thought that once the baby dropped, my stomach was going to be on flat. I left that hospital and what I came in. I hated myself. I hated the way I looked. I blamed my son. But that's where my depression, and I have pinpointed when my depression. My depression started even beforehand. I got out the military. I moved to Florida, and within a week I got pregnant. I went from a very structured environment to having friends around. Somebody was always around. I come to a new state. I have no friends. I'm me and my husband, we have been married for like a year already, but we have been separated. I'm still doing my thing. I was doing my thing. You know what I'm saying? From doing that to now I'm coming into this role as a housewife. It's hot here in Florida.
You're like, I don't want to be here. What the hell did I do? And then you feel so stuck.
Yeah, and nobody wanted to hang out with the pregnant chick, or at least I thought that, because I was projecting what I was feeling, and I do know that plays a role. But my depression started way before I even had kids. It was just that my son was a reflection of that for me. And then I remember, like, my son had to be about 3 months. And don't get me wrong, I loved him during this
it's such like a introspective thing that you're describing, that you've really thought about, and that you say your son is a reflection of that. Is this something like, did you ever get therapy or anything that you talked through this, or is this something like you really went on this like inner journey to like really understand your emotions and take the time to really learn yourself?
I really had to get to know myself. I had to tell myself some ugly truths. I mean, who wants to say that they didn't really care too much about I loved him. I was, nothing was going to happen, but he was a reflection of everything that when I had my baby, I realized how much I hated myself. I remember being so disappointed. So growing up in white neighborhoods, always being too black for the white kids and too white for the black kids, I hated being black. I blamed my blackness on why I wasn't fitting in. Thank goodness for social media, though, and I know that everybody talks about how social media is such a negative place, but for me, it's been nothing but positivity, because being able to go on YouTube and watch Black women put their makeup on and the smile, and I realized, hold on, she looked like me. That woman is beautiful. It made me realize all of these things, and kind of grew up when I had my kid, because I didn't want him to hate himself. I didn't want my son to look at me and be like, why my mama had to be black? Why my daddy had to be like, why couldn't I have more on the white side? I didn't want that. I wanted my son to be able to embrace both. I wanted him to realize that it was beauty in both.
You might have come, like, when you were talking about when you were a kid and reading that file and just kind of like getting a sense of your identity, and you had to read what somebody else thought was your identity. And then when you had your son, sort of not wanting him to feel that way, and having him feel like he knows who he is and he doesn't have to be told by somebody else who he is, sort of like comes full circle.
It does, because that file told me who I was, but I realized I am my son's file. And the way that I felt about myself, I was going to give him that, whether it was intentional or unintentional, through the things that I would say, through the way that I would act. See, when you hate yourself or you dislike parts of yourself, you tend to talk negative about those parts easily. Oh, hey, my hair ain't the best right now. Somebody say, oh, girl, that dress is cute. You be like, oh, but I had to stitch myself up because of my fat rolls. Stuff like, I didn't want to say things like that. I didn't want to be, it's even certain terms that I grew up hearing that I won't even use around my children. I used to hear all the time about our hair, like, oh, girl, your hair is nappy. Ugh. I will not use that word around my children. Their hair is not nappy. It's just super curly. And if it's dry, it's going to hurt. And I use the correct terms so that they can fully understand, because my husband's biracial. So my oldest son, he has more of the African hair. And my youngest son has, I call it white people hair. I don't know what else to call it.
Well, my ex-husband's actually North African. He's Moroccan. And so my son has very curly hair. Yeah. And he had like a mix of both of our hair. And my ex-husband had like very, very curly black hair. He had kind of like Afro looking, like, when he had like what is it from the 70s with the hairstyle, the Afro hairstyle. Yeah. Like that, like sort of round hairstyle when he was a little kid. And so my son has this like in between hair of like, it's kind of my hair and it's kind of his hair. So I know what you mean. Yeah.
And girl, I don't even know how to deal with that. Sometimes I'll be like, whoop. And so I just, I don't use them terms because I don't want one of my sons to think that their hair is better, because there's beauty in both of their hair textures. And even during the summer, we send them to the grandmas, and she doesn't know anything about Black people's hair. So she'll be like, I remember over the summer this time, because we're very open and we have these conversations and stuff. She was just like, I don't know what to do with his hair. It is just so dry. It just soaks up. It just soaks up everything and it'll still be dry. She tried about 100 products. She was really trying. But she lives in West Virginia, so I could not find nobody to braid my baby's hair up to save my life. Everybody was too scared of it. They said,
Oh, that's so funny.
But, I had to do a lot of work with myself. You don't want your kids to hate themselves. And honestly, the parts of yourself that you tend not to like, it's really hard not to like it in your children. You'll be like, oh, I don't like my lips. And then your kid got the same lips as you. And you be like, my baby lips is beautiful.
I know, right? Everything they do.
Yes. And even talking down on yourself in my house is a no-no. You don't talk down to yourself, and then you don't talk down on someone else. So when my boys fight, if I hear, look, girl, my kids can say the word fuck all day. But if they say stupid, nuck if you buck. Look, we nucking because we're not using that negativity in this household.
Do they respond to that? Do they know like, oh, I shouldn't have said this about myself? Or like, do they understand that they shouldn't be having that negative talk about themselves? They get it?
Yeah, I tell them all the time when they're like, well, I can't do this. And I'm like, well, nobody can do anything until they try. And it takes practice. I've been singing that since before they could even make a sentence. And my son taught himself how to skateboard because he would he tried it and then he fell and then he started crying and I said, get up. Try again. Well, it's hard. That means try harder because it's gonna even be better when you accomplish. And now he know how to do it. And I'm proud of him and I let him know like I'm super proud of you. And I love how independent my kids are as thinkers and stuff. And it really just made me like have to just love on myself that much more because I mean, I did that. Them kids is smart and that give myself some credit, pat myself on the back. But yeah, it took a minute for me to understand like the cycle of which my brain operates.
Do you like, to keep this level of awareness about yourself and this like self-love perspective that you have and like to really like embody that? One of the things you mentioned was, in terms of relationships and letting men control your self-esteem and all these different experiences you went through. And now I know you're married and you have your kids. How does your husband and your other half, do they help you? Are they supportive of you and your, of your independence? And, did they help you feel this way? Or like, I'm just curious how that shifted from your experiences before with these bad relationships. Now, how do you feel about your current relationship and how has that helped you and changed you and made you who you are too?
Well, okay, I'm going to tell you guys a hard truth about me. So I've been in an open marriage.
I knew it. And I was like, I ain't going to say it, but I'm going to see if she says it.
Yeah, because look, I be telling people the timeline and people be like, what in the what? I was so damaged. And I, oh my goodness, my husband is so incredible. When he met me, he loved me so much that he recognized what type of woman I was. So he was already light years before me. When we got married, he said, I want you for the rest of my life, and we're going to do this. But I want this to be an open conversation within our household. I don't think we expected it to be quite like how it is. For me, I was like, hell yeah.
It shifted. So you guys got together and then you got married and then you decided afterwards that it was going to be an open marriage, not in the beginning?
Yeah, girl, I was cheating before.
Oh.
But I was cheating, but I wasn't a quiet cheater. I was a loud cheater.
Yeah. You're like,
you don't want to spend time with me tonight? That's all right. Got somebody else. But then I realized during this process that I didn't like being alone. That right there was, yeah, I realized that, but he said that and I went wild. I went wild. I was like, okay. And then coming to Florida, that's when I really started meeting how I really viewed myself. In the military, I loved who I was to a certain extent. I dated men who would beg to be with me. I dated men who couldn't wait to be around me and stuff like that. And then shifting to now I'm a mom. My husband is working all the time. I got responsibilities. I can't go out and do nothing. I got this mommy body. Like, it just made me accept anything. And I did. I accepted what I thought I deserved, and definitely not good. I mean, I was messing with men who I wouldn't even show my best friend the picture. And if you've ever been with a man that you have not been physically attracted to, if that man is treating you good, you would show your best friend, like, girl, he's so sexy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it ain't right when he's ugly and you afraid to show him. Because you're ugly and you ain't treating me right.
Treating you right makes it makes them look completely different. I mean, like, if you're with somebody who really cares about you and everything, like, anything else, it trumps everything else, so that's how you kind of,
Yeah. But my husband has been so patient with me. I've been able to talk to him about every single one, like, of them.
So he embraces it in you, that you enjoy that freedom, and he also, like, he likes that it's an open marriage. It helps you guys to have a healthier marriage, you think?
It took us a minute to get here, but now we can talk about jealousy because people think that within the open marriage, jealousy isn't really a thing, but jealousy is definitely a thing. Insecurities, all of these things that came up in my marriage had me look at myself some kind of way. My husband, he's been out, when he goes out and he dates and stuff, it would be women at one point that, they were working women. Here I am, the stay-at-home mom, taking care of the kids. I can barely keep the house clean. I'm struggling. All of these things. And these women were making money. They were, interested in him. And all I could do was compare myself. And when we would sit down and have these conversations, even though he would try to make me feel secure, in that moment, I really realized that he can't make me feel secure if I'm not ready to.
You control how you feel, if you feel secure or not. It's not him.
Yes. And I wasn't jealous because he was out there with other women. I was jealous because they were something that I was not, that I wanted to be.
It was about you and them. It wasn't about you and him.
And that meant that I should probably do that work on myself, because I needed to embrace that attitude of, you can't take my man, and if you do, I'm gonna get another one.
What was that song we were listening to before we started recording? If you don't love you anymore, walk your fine ass out that door. We're jamming to that before.
Yes. But it was a lot of insecurities with myself. And we went through all of that together. Even to this day, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about relationships that I might have got into. I remember at one point, it was this woman at his job. And she did to me. I was just like super jealous. They would go out and stuff. And during my journey, I was like, the fuck I'm jealous of? Wow. I said, wait, her baby's got a pool party? Take the boys. Shit, she won't play mama. The fuck?
Help you at the end of the day.
Yes.
Go get a manicure.
Yes, gave me a whole break. Look, baby, we is not in competition. If you could take this man off my hand, he was never mine to be keeping with.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. But it was, she was doing everything. She was really trying to get him, and I was like, baby, I'll keep it coming. Keep on. I didn't have to cook dinner because she was trying to compete with me with cooking. Little did she know I ain't want to cook for my family anyway.
She was doing you a favor.
Yeah, until she made that macaroni and cheese, and my son said, ugh. And I said, she gotta go.
That was the final straw. That was the end of her. I don't know how you do it though, because I would like get like, I don't know, I would get like attached to these other guys, you know, that's would be my problem. I feel like even more than the jealousy, I would get like caught up in like my feelings for the other guys. And I'd be like, you know, I would have a hard time letting go of them and stick into the marriage if I was doing that. You know what I mean?
That's
where I would like have a problem because I get attached.
I do too. Like I'm human too. I definitely get attached. But something that my husband offers me that no one else has ever been able to offer me is the level of communication that I have with my husband. I would come home and be like, baby, I think I'm in love. The way he just put it down, I don't know, I might leave your ass. And we would kiki about it because, you know, I was able to come home and say these things. And I mean, it was never like in a disrespectful tone.
Like in a best friend sort of a way. Yeah, it's almost like a different type of best friend relationship, but it's so deep and you guys raise the kids together and you have the same values and it's just what works for you guys.
Yes, it's crazy how, that level of best friend is my husband is always the man I come back to, whether I am at my best or my worst. And even with the open marriage, he has never, not one time, and I've messed up a lot. Like I didn't understand in the beginning what I had. I missed skills, didn't appreciate it. Honestly, it was really what saved us. Communication is definitely a relationship, and you're with someone that you can be naked in front of, and I'm not emotionally naked. To be emotionally naked and to be able to tell someone even the not so okay thoughts that you have, the not so typical, I could tell him my desires, whether they include him or not. He can tell me his. I remember one time he came home and he told me he thought he loved another woman.
Oh, wow. And
for a second, I was like, this bitch about to take my man. But then I said, either I can play that card and get angry and upset and dismiss his feelings, or I can be understanding and I can be a friend because that's what he really needs. And it's either he's going to get that friendship from somebody. I want him to get that friendship from me. For a second, he is important enough to me for me to put my feelings to the side, at least for right now, and listen to his so I can reevaluate some stuff. And I remember we're having this conversation in my kitchen and he's like telling me like the straight up truth. And I got nothing but tears coming out of my eyes. And I kept trying to tell him like, don't keep going. I know I got the tears because the emotions, that they're real, because this is every woman's fear. But we talked about it so well that night that I was okay. You know, and then at that moment, I did realize I gotta get my shit together because at the end of the day, you cannot control somebody else. And at any moment,
your life can change.
That I have, yes, the lifestyle that I have, you know, shoot, we might find out that I might not be his soulmate.
Do you believe in soulmates? Okay. You believe in soulmates?
I do. When I knew my husband was going to be my husband, when I first took a look at him, I looked at him and I said, oh, that's my husband. I chased that man. The way I chased my husband, I will never chase a man again.
Well, you already caught him, so.
Yeah, but I know now that I chased my husband the way that I chased him because I put my value in him. A lot of my hopes and my beginnings, my dreams started because I wanted to become the woman that he wanted me to be. I went to college because he said he wanted a smart girl. I wasn't going to go to college beforehand. I was okay with having a whole military career. I was cool with that. Shoot, I barely made it out of high school. I didn't want to go to, he said, no, I like he wanted intelligent women, and he wanted, and I was like, well, shit, sign me up for class. I went and got that. When he left the military, I wanted to go and visit him. I heard him. I never had my license before then. I learned how to drive in a week. I learned that self-love even then. Why did it take me to get a man to make me feel motivated to do that stuff when
clearly, like, you are freaking capable, and you are freaking capable doing everything. Oh, sign me up. Let's do it. Let's do college. Let's do this. Like, you're capable. So why did it take you till then to like put it into that?
Yes, but I was just lucky that I found someone who didn't misuse me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just like everyone else. It's just that I found someone who didn't misuse me. Because now, me coming to Florida, I've met men who misuse that. And I realized how delicate that is. And I got to protect that. So every man who wants my attention, they're not worth it. And I don't have to give it to them. I don't have to give my time, my energy, my effort, my conversation, my presence to anyone because they want me to.
You're in control of what you want finally, after all this time.
Yes.
It's powerful.
It is. And, it just looks different on every woman. My lifestyle, I don't think that everybody, can have the lifestyle that I have. And all because a woman wants to be in a polygamous relationship, there's nothing wrong with that. Or not a polygamous, a monogamy. I'm sorry. A monogamous relationship, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just recognizing who you are so you can stand in your truth that much more so you can be happy.
For everyone out there, listening, who is identifying with some pieces of what you're saying and maybe is going through different parts of that journey that you went on, what are some of the lessons that you want to leave them with that you wish you knew sooner?
How amazing I was. I wish that how 30-year-old Evoni is loving herself. I wish that 20, 21, 22-year-old Ebony, 23-year-old Ebony would have been like, girl, you gonna look. You better put that halter top on, girl. Okay, you better show off that belly button. You better, embrace who you are right now, because we always hear it like you're never gonna get that back. You're not gonna get it back, but it gets better.
And it's gonna get better. I love my 30s. My 30s are like, I love it. I just turned 31, and 31 is the new 21 for sure.
Yes, it's so much better
because you know who you are by now, and you already went through all that shit. And a lot of it, I think we both on the same page about this, has to do with these freaking relationships that we had to get over. And it kind of just released whatever issues we had with our own, identity and like valuing ourselves. It wasn't even about the relationships or these guys. It was just about how we value ourselves. So now we're at a point where we know more who we are. And that's like what you need to do, to be happy at the root of things. You have to just like really know who you are. And like you said, just step into that and own it.
Yes. And it would be amazing, because a lot of the times people think with me being a coach that it's business, business, business. But that's not the case. Before I can even get to the business, there's so many emotional barriers I have to get past with my students in a way that they're the ones that's going through it. Like, I don't be like, well, this is how you should do it, and that's or I let them kind of come to that conclusion of what's best. Like, I'll ask the hard questions. Like, for example, one of my clients, she was driving around this beat up car, and I had to get her to get to that root problem, because she could afford a new car. She deserved a new car. All of the boxes checked off. And I had to get to that deep-rooted issue. And I remember that wasn't like a one phone call type of thing. It was over the course of time for her now to have released that And now she's in the car. That enhances her life and it brings on good feelings. When she's driving to her office, she feels amazing. You know, all of these things is, we would be so surprised how much mindset, like we all think we have the perfect mindset. You know, when you post these positive quotes and stuff, and that's why on my page, I'll try to make sure I'm really transparent I say the good, the bad, the ugly. I talk about all of my mental things because I suffer with depression, anxiety, all of these things. And
you cover a big range because like what that mindset work is a big range. You know, some of your posts that stand out to me like have a lot to do with empowerment and like, you know, being a woman and feeling comfortable with that. And, you know, you'll have a photo shoot where like, you know, you're at work and you're looking amazing and you have this beautiful outfit on. And then you're like, you know, in another photo shoot and you're in lingerie and you're just owning that and talking about confidence. And, you know, you have to have both sides of things, you know, because we're so complex as women and like, you can't neglect one part of yourself. You can't be like, I'm not going to be sexy or like, if I'm too sexy, people are not going to take me serious, you know, and you can't be like, if I'm too serious, no man's going to want me because I'm not sexy. Like you have to kind of like know who you are and know like in a well-rounded way and like embrace it in a well-rounded way and not like suppress parts of yourself and recognize that each part is just as beautiful as the next part to know who you really are. And I think you do that a lot. You're well-rounded in knowing who you are.
Suppressing yourself for someone else doesn't hurt someone else. It hurts you.
And we do that a lot of the time too, to get to where we want to be, whether that's like that person's approval of us or, you know, whatever success we think it's coming with that on the other side. And if you really like take an inner look, that's not where you really want to be, you know, so you don't have to worry about like, oh no, you know what though, I have to keep going on this path or I'm not going to get there. You don't really want to get there. You don't want to get to that fucking place anyway. Like, trust me, you know? So like, you have to reevaluate in the now. Don't worry about like whatever you're going to give up because you don't want it anyway. It's not going to bring you happiness until you know who you are and you get where you really want.
Yeah. It's really amazing. A lot of my students are these amazing, I mean, hardworking women. And the way that they look up to me, I remember like, you know, when they say, they're like, hey coach, sometimes I'm like so taken by just that word because I'm just like, I'm doing it. I was told that I wouldn't make it because of how I am. I was told that nobody would ever want to be, you know, follow behind me. I had to change. I didn't give off the look of success. And yet I have a profitable hair business by being myself, and I can show other people how to have one too, whether I'm shaking my ass or in a business suit. All because I'm wearing something doesn't take away what's up here in my head. It doesn't devalue what I have up in my head. And a lot of the times people ask me about target audience. And in all honesty, don't change who you are because you're in business, because you're going to hate it if you have to walk out in a conference of a bunch of people who don't relate to you. Imagine how that's what people have to do if you have 9 to 5s. They have to go to those dreadful meetings. No, I want a bunch of empowered people near me, and I want people who can turn up and make money. I want people who are imperfect around me. I want real people because I like to have real conversations. And if I get a little too drunk at the party, I don't want to be the story of the year because they all lame. You know, that's just everything, you know.
It's going to be around people who are accepting of you because you're accepting of them. It's like at the end of the day. So that means not changing for other people who you don't want to change for because you don't want to be around them at the end of the day. And just understanding that is where that self-love piece comes into play. Like I had a corporate career for like 10 years. And at the end, I got where I wanted to be and I had the position I wanted to be. And I was like freaking miserable. And I was like, right now I'm a size like 6'8". I think I was a size 16, 18, and just living every day for people who like didn't care about me, you know, and living for a life that I didn't want. So it's like, you think you still have to do these things because you started on that path, and you don't. You have to just like, you can reset and you can start over. And if you want to start over with really re-identifying who you are and create a whole new path, and that's what you should do. That's what I would recommend doing. You need to start that self-love journey that you talk about. And how can our listeners, Evoni, learn a little bit more about you and follow what you do, follow you on this self-love journey, take these action steps with you? Where can we learn more about this?
All right. Well, my website, you guys, is www.eafbeauty.com. Make sure you guys go there and download From Bundle Babe to Wig Boss. It is an amazing, amazing ebook filled with a lot of knowledge on how to start and or scale a profitable hair business. But I did want to say something towards I never tell anyone to quit their job. I always say that moment that you recognize that you're unhappy is when you start your exit plan. An exit plan sometimes is not overnight. It's not in a couple of months. It's just something that you, just in case that day that you just had enough and you're ready to pull that plug, you're able to pivot comfortably. And I tell people that all the time, because don't quit your job. Don't put that stress on yourself if you don't have to, because if you're not paying your bills, then who will? That's a whole other problem. But if you're unhappy, that unhappiness is a chance that unhappiness will grow.
And that's true of life. You need to pivot in life, not only like in work, like you're talking about unhappiness and all of that, like it can be in your life, in your relationships, anything else, all these other aspects that you don't have to shift them overnight. But once you recognize that you're unhappy, that's where everything needs to change. You need to have an exit strategy from whatever that is, even if it's not career related. You have to have a strategy, because like you said, it will just grow the further you get away from it.
Yes. And that right there is powerful all in itself. When you even every day, living more and more in your purpose and your passion, you're going to operate differently. You're going to talk to people differently. You're going to smile naturally. It just makes you happier and a better person all the way around, because when we take care of ourselves and we are doing something for ourselves constantly, you just can't help but just love on yourself and be like, oh my gosh, I'm amazing. I just did this for me.
Goes back to where you're working, and your goal and your purpose was your son, and you shifted that and you made your purpose yourself. And that's where, we're trying to get at with this self-love journey, is make your purpose yourself. That's where you're going to see those rewards and that change and that happiness grow from, is if you did it for you and not for somebody else. Because
guess what? Them kids gonna grow up and leave. So whether you do your self-love journey now or you wait till later, it's going to happen. But how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice for that?
And they're not supposed to be, your purpose. You're supposed to teach them to be their own purpose, like what you're doing, and teaching them to have their own identity and have that open communication with you. So I thank you so much for sharing all this with me, Evoni, sharing your life with us and these stories. And it's been so great getting to know you even more. I always love talking to you. You're such a great person and a great friend. And thank you so much for joining me tonight and hanging out with me.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
It's been a pleasure. Talk to you soon, Evoni.
All righty.